All right, let's dive in. Today we're exploring, I guess you could say, a self-help classic,
Yeah.
The Power of Positive Thinking
Mhm.
by Norman Vincent Peale.
Okay.
Now, this book, it's kind of like a roadmap to, well, unlocking your potential,
Right.
reaching for success, better health,
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah.
And it all revolves around, you probably guessed it, the power of positive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But, and here's the thing, it's all grounded in a Christian framework.
Hmm.
It's not just about, like, thinking happy thoughts,
Oh,
though.
absolutely.
It's packed with real-life stories
Yes.
and practical techniques.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be unpacking today. We're going to see how your thoughts, like, directly shape what you experience
Yeah.
and how to tap into that inner strength, the kind you might not even realize you have.
What I find fascinating is how Peele brings together this spirituality and practical advice.
Right.
It's like he's showing you how aligning your mindset with believing in a higher power, it can actually lead to real change in your life.
And he gets right into it, too. Like, right off the bat, Peele talks about the importance of believing in yourself.
Yeah.
He shares this story of a businessman just totally terrified of messing up this huge deal,
Mm-hmm.
plagued by self-doubt, felt like a complete and utter failure.
Peele's advice to him, it wasn't just, hey, think positive. It was more nuanced.
Okay.
He really encouraged him to, dig deep,
Mm-hmm.
analyze those feelings, like where were they coming from, what past experiences, what beliefs, what was fueling that lack of confidence.
I see.
Peele believed that only by understanding the root of that negativity, that's when you can start to change it.
It's like pulling a weed.
Yes,
You can't just, like, trim the top.
exactly.
You got to get to the root.
You got it. And, to really illustrate this, Peele tells this amazing story about a salesman who would carry these little cards with Bible verses on them.
Wow.
And whenever a negative thought would, creep in, he'd whip out a card
Oh, wow.
and replace that thought with, like, an affirmation of faith and courage.
So he was, like, retraining his mind.
Literally.
And this wasn't just some feel-good exercise. He actually saw changes
Absolutely.
in his life, in his work, real changes.
Real tangible changes. And this story, it highlights that we have the power to, actively shape our thoughts.
Right.
It's not about ignoring the negative stuff. It's about consciously, deliberately replacing it with something positive, something empowering.
Then Peele goes on to, like, really stress clearing out that negativity and worry
Yeah.
to make room for peace and faith. It's like he's saying you got to empty the container before you can fill it with something new.
You think of it like prepping the soil before you plant a seed.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't just throw a seed on hard-packed ground
Right.
and expect it to grow.
It's a good analogy. And it reminds me of that story Peele tells about the man on the crowded train finding peace just by reading the Bible.
Creating that space.
Yes. Creating a pocket of peace in the middle of chaos.
And it goes even further than that. Peele, he points out how even our everyday words, like in casual conversations, they impact our mental state.
Interesting.
Imagine if we made a conscious effort to use more positive expressions just in our regular interactions.
It's like a ripple effect. The more we focus on the positive, the more we spread that positivity.
Yeah.
But what about fear? How does he address that?
Peele introduces this really interesting idea of imaging as a way to eliminate fear.
Okay.
He suggests that by picturing yourself totally free from worry, you can actually help drain it away.
So visualization.
Exactly. This imaging that he's talking about, that's what we call visualization now.
Yeah.
It's used in sports, therapy, business, to help people achieve goals. Peele was really onto something there.
So he's saying we can, like, use our imagination to shape reality?
That's the core idea. And to kind of solidify this, Peele puts a lot of emphasis on faith,
Yeah.
arguing that having faith in God, that's the ultimate antidote to fear, because it gives you a sense of security that goes beyond your immediate circumstances.
And this all ties back to that idea of God as a source of energy, right? Like,
Yeah.
he talks about his friend who goes to church specifically to recharge his batteries.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that human need to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
A source of strength, renewal.
He even brings up Thomas Edison. Like, apparently Edison could fall asleep instantly, wake up totally refreshed, no matter how long he'd been working.
Wow.
And Peele attributes this to Edison's, like, deep connection with a universal energy source.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What if there are levels of energy and creativity we haven't even tapped into?
Oh, yeah?
Peele, he believes that aligning ourselves with God's rhythm opens up this boundless flow of energy.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working in sync with something bigger.
You got it. And he tells the story to illustrate it of a businessman who he realized he could use prayer to actually solve business problems.
Hmm.
And he had this, get this, three-step formula. He called it prayerize, picturize, actualize.
Okay, those are interesting words. What do they mean?
So prayerize means making prayer a constant companion in your day. Imagine talking to God like you would a close friend or a business partner even.
So not just Sunday mornings or when things are tough.
Exactly. Integrating it into everything.
What about picturize?
Picturize is all about creating a vivid image in your mind of the outcome you want. Might sound a bit out there.
Yeah.
But think about it. Visualization, that's used in so many fields now. Peele's just applying that to prayer.
So he's saying that by picturing success, you're like making it more likely to happen.
Precisely. And then you have actualize. That's where you take those concrete steps fueled by your faith and taking action.
Right.
It's not enough to just pray and visualize. You got to put in the work.
It's about turning those thoughts and prayers into something tangible.
Exactly. Peale, he truly believed that picturing success, it could actually help bring it about. He didn't shy away from the idea that our minds have power over our reality.
And this circles back to like his core message, right? Your thoughts have power. By choosing to focus on those positive outcomes, you create an energy that helps you achieve them. But it's not just willpower.
Absolutely not. It's about connecting with something larger.
Now, I love this next part. Peale tells the story of this, like, elderly gentleman at a party, just radiating happiness.
Oh, yes.
And someone asks him his secret, and he simply says he chooses to be happy every day.
Just like that.
So simple, but so profound.
Right. Peale suggests that we actually have a choice in how we approach each day.
We can choose happiness.
Yes. Even when things are tough, it's about taking back control of your emotional state.
So he's not saying to, like, pretend everything's perfect or ignore your problems?
No, not at all. He gives practical tips, like starting each day with positive affirmations, consciously replacing those unhappy thoughts with happy ones.
I remember he even recommends meditating on specific Bible verses.
Oh, yes.
For a happiness boost, like Psalm 118.24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
It's like a happiness prescription.
It's great. It's like he blends that practical advice with spiritual grounding. And remember the story about the red cap at Grand Central Station?
Oh, spreading kindness everywhere.
Yeah, like a walking ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
What was Peele's point with that story?
Peale uses him as an example of how love and goodwill, they can be contagious.
Right.
It's a reminder that choosing happiness, it creates a ripple effect, touching not only your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. And that leads us to, I think, a really empowering idea from Peale. He calls it the I don't believe in defeat philosophy.
Okay.
He tells this story about, he calls him the obstacle man, this guy fixated on problems, not possibilities.
Yeah, the kind of person who, like, just sucks the joy out of everything.
Exactly, a real downer. And Peale contrasts him with this other man, completely different approach. Instead of letting obstacles stop him, this guy, he just removes them, keeps moving forward.
Like, doesn't even acknowledge them, just powers through with, like, this unshakable belief.
And Peale thinks this mindset, we can all cultivate it. It starts with visualizing victory over those challenges, replacing those negative thoughts with affirmations of faith. He even mentions a specific verse, Philippians 4.13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
It's like a mantra for overcoming obstacles.
Exactly.
I find it interesting how he brings together this inner strength idea with relying on a higher power.
It's not just about willpower, it's about tapping into something bigger than ourselves. Now, Peale then tackles something I think we all struggle with, worry. He actually says that worry, it's a choice. We can choose not to engage in it.
I think a lot of people would disagree with that. Worry can feel so automatic.
I know, right? It's easier said than done. But he uses the example of the artist Howard Christie. He simply didn't believe in worrying, saw it as pointless.
So we can just decide not to worry.
Well, it's not that simple, but Peale presents it as a bad mental habit, one we can break. And his solution, replace worry with faith.
So shifting your focus from the problem to a higher power.
Precisely. And he tells this great story. A businessman had this wastebasket in his office. He labeled it, with God all things are possible.
Okay.
And whenever he felt worried about something, he'd write it down, toss it in that wastebasket.
Powerful image, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like physically surrendering those worries.
Yeah.
And then he gives like 5 practical steps for breaking this worry habit. Things like daily mind emptying, visualizing those fears being drained, filling your mind with faith.
So it's not just wishful thinking, he's giving you strategies. What I find really fascinating is this connection he makes between worry and a lack of faith.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you truly believe in God's power, worry loses its grip.
It's a different way of looking at it. Now, Peele then goes into this whole realm of the subconscious mind. It's like this hidden potential operating below our awareness.
You mean like the part of our mind we're not even aware of?
Exactly. And Peele believes we can reprogram that subconscious mind with positive thoughts. Remember that imaging technique?
Uh-huh.
He argues we can use visualization to plant these seeds of success right there in our subconscious.
So it's more than just thinking positive, it's shaping the deeper levels of our minds.
Right. And he shares this amazing story. This guy named Maurice Flint goes from being a total failure to wildly successful, all because he embraced faith.
What happened?
Maurice was at rock bottom, negativity, self-doubt. But then one day, he hears this Bible text. It just clicks with him. And he ends up building a successful business around that very text.
It's amazing how a single idea can be so powerful.
Right. And Peele uses this to show that no matter how difficult things are, faith and positive thinking can help you overcome anything. It's a message of hope.
I love that. He's not pretending things are easy, but he's reminding us we have the power to get through them. And this leads into his talk about the healing power of faith, not just emotional, but physical health too.
He shares a powerful story. A woman physician, she has this healing experience while praying for her sister who's critically ill.
He's suggesting faith can actually impact our physical well-being.
That's the idea. And he doesn't shy away from miracles. He even lays out 7 steps to take when facing illness. Things like accepting God's will, choosing not to worry, visualizing that loved one in perfect health. It's about being proactive.
Interesting how he keeps coming back to not worrying. He sees it as a real obstacle to healing.
Yes. And it's not just physical healing. Peele talks about resentment, negativity. Holding on to those feelings, it damages us physically and mentally.
Like we're poisoning ourselves with negativity.
Exactly. He tells a story about this executive carrying so much anger and resentment that it's making him sick. But then he confesses his sins, receives forgiveness, and his health, his work, it all turns around.
So forgiveness is key.
It seems to be a crucial part of the process. And Peele gives practical steps for letting go of that anger. Things like physically relaxing your body to release tension, consciously replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones, and the importance of confession, admitting those mistakes and seeking forgiveness.
It's like a whole emotional detox.
Yes, and all of this builds to his last chapter where he talks about this transformative power of positive thinking. He really hammers home the point that our thoughts have a real power to shape our reality.
Like our thoughts are the blueprints and our experiences are the buildings.
Exactly. And Peele believes that changing your thinking can completely remake your life. He tells a story about this businessman. He turns his life around by replacing negative thoughts with positive, faith-based ones.
So it's not just any positive thinking, it's connecting it to a higher power.
Right. He believes God is the source of these positive, life-changing thoughts. By aligning ourselves with God's will, tapping into his power, we get this endless supply of positivity and strength.
It reminds me of that story he tells at the end about the discouraged man at the golf club.
Oh yes, that's a good one. This man's feeling like a complete failure. And someone in the group gives him the simple advice. Why not draw upon that higher power?
Powerful line. And he takes that advice to heart, reconnects with his faith. Complete transformation.
It's a perfect example of Peele's core message. No matter what you're going through, there's a higher power to help you overcome it. You're not alone.
I love how he ends the book with that hope and empowerment, reminding us that we have access to this incredible source of strength and guidance.
And this brings us to, well, kind of a heavy story Peele tells about a recovering alcoholic. This man was on the verge of something really terrible.
Oh, wow.
Consumed by anger and resentment, actually planning to harm his estranged wife, his mother-in-law, and sister-in-law.
Oh, that's chilling. What happened?
He was on his way to a bar, but then something amazing happened. He runs into a friend who had found sobriety through Alcoholics Anonymous. That chance encounter, it changed everything. Instead of the bar, he goes to an AA meeting. And his life, it takes a complete turn.
It's incredible how one little moment can, completely shift your direction.
It really is. He found strength in his faith and the support of people who understood his struggles. And this story, it really reinforces that idea that no matter how far down you might be, there's a way back up. There's always hope.
It's like Peele saying there's always a chance for redemption no matter what you've done, where you've been.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the power of positive thinking, I'm curious, what are your biggest takeaways? What really stood out to you?
Well, for me, one thing that really stuck was Peele's emphasis on the power of our thoughts. He's not just saying, think happy thoughts. He's arguing that they have a real impact on our reality.
Yeah, like our thoughts are seeds that we plant, and those seeds can grow into positive or negative experiences.
Yes. And while he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff, those negative thoughts that can sneak in, he also gives us tools, techniques for building a more positive mindset, one grounded in faith.
And he doesn't stop at mindset either. He talks about taking action, putting those positive thoughts into practice, prayer, visualization, affirmations, even physical things like writing down your worries and throwing them away.
He's presenting this like really well-rounded approach to living a more successful, healthy, and happy life.
Absolutely. And through it all, he reminds us we're not alone in this. There's a higher power, a source of strength and guidance that's always available.
So I want to ask you, our listener, what resonated with you in this deep dive? So what's one thing you could start doing today to put these principles into action in your own life?
Maybe try out some of Peele's techniques, like starting your day with positive affirmations or experimenting with visualization, creating those mental pictures of what you want.
Or maybe just make a conscious effort to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. Remember, you have the power to shape your reality. Believe in yourself, cultivate that positive mindset, and tap into that higher power. You might be surprised what you can accomplish.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of positive thinking.